When you're a young team like this Washington Wizards team is, you're going to have some really brutal offensive shooting nights. Tonight was one of those nights, but the team still found a way to compete, and I'm proud of that.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you are locked on to the Washington Wizards, where you're part of our family. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first in every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team free and available every single day. My name is Ben Strober. I'm taking you through the episode today. AB out tonight. He'll be back with us tomorrow when we break down Michael Winger, the president of Monumental Basketball's press conference that he delivered today. But instead, we are recapping a 107-97 loss to the Denver Nuggets, a competitive loss for this Wizards team tonight. So on today's episode, I'll tell you why I thought they were able to compete despite a really abysmal, is the best way to put it, offensive display from this Washington team. Really like some things from Trey Johnson. I'll tell you about that. But I'm a little frustrated that we didn't see more of him in the fourth quarter. And then I also want to talk about Peyton Watson for Denver, because he was incredible in this game with 35 points. And there's been a lot of noise swirling around about his name. And I think he might be a name that Washington should actually look into in free agency this summer, and I'll tell you why. Throughout this episode today of Locked On Wizards, if you're an everydayer, let us know in the comments below, because you are a legend and you make this show possible every single day. At one point in this game, to preface it this way, on how weird this was of an offensive night for Washington and how bad it was at one point, the Wizards were shooting better from three than they were from the field. And this was, I believe, late in the third quarter. Bijan Todd of Monumental Sports put out a tweet about that, so I found that completely fascinating. And at one point in the game, it was really early. It was the second quarter. I think there was 3 minutes to go in the second quarter. Washington was only shooting 24% from the field. Denver was 36%. I was like, man, this is certainly a game of basketball. Does anybody want to win this game? Does anybody want to score? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. But I do think the Washington Wizards are getting a little bit more sound in a lot of different realms defensively. And obviously this is a Denver team that is playing without the best player in the world, in Nikola Jokic. And you go, okay, you were competitive twice in the same week against the Nuggets, and they don't have Jokic playing. But that is a talented Denver team. They are really, really good. Offensively, defensively, physicality-wise, Washington just could not match up with them. And even an old friend in Jonas Valanciunas, I thought he kind of overmatched Alex Sarr tonight, who I didn't think was bad, but in some instances I think Sarr could have been better in this game. He had 15 and 8, 5 of 13 from the field. I just feel like he was a little overmatched. Jonas, that dude is a big, big man, and he imposed his will for a lot of it tonight. By the way, we'll give you an opportunity at the end of the episode to let it all out, as we always do here on the Locked On Wizards postgame show. Certain things defensively I'm noticing. I'm going to tell you why it's encouraging for me going forward. Is this team is getting better at playing in help side and rotating defensively. If you think about where this team was early in the season defensively, well, they were on pace to be the worst team defensively in NBA history in terms of net rating and defensive rating. Like, okay, that's pretty bad. That's pretty tough to watch. Obviously, we all knew that was going to be the result this year, but that's what's going to happen sometimes. Tonight, Denver ends up shooting 9 of 26 from three, 34%, and Peyton Watson had 6 of those. You were only giving up threes to one guy tonight, and I think it's because they rotate a lot better defensively now. And this is the result you're going to get when you have super young basketball players on your team. It is hard to get those guys up to speed at the NBA level, the way that you have to rotate, the way that you have to get back in transition. Because you remember how big of a problem that was for this team early on in the season, just getting beat in transition. Man, it was frustrating. I know it was frustrating for the players. It was frustrating for Keefe. But I feel like they're starting to get a little more sound and figure things out. And I'm not going to act like Denver had an excellent night offensively and Washington was just that good defensively to hold them to 107 points tonight. That's not necessarily the case. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because there were some instances where there were some breakdowns on the defensive side. But I think a lot of that will also just become from the size advantage in this game. You look at total rebounds. Denver out-rebounds Washington by 4, so not a terrible rebounding disparity, but you could just feel it, and you could just see it when you're watching this game, that Washington was overmatched physically And I think that's okay. When you're the youngest team in the NBA, it's okay for that to be your biggest issue, especially on that side of the basketball. They're not making the same careless mistakes defensively, which I think is an improvement overall for where this team wants to be because, look, as it stands right now, they still have a long, long way to go from being a complete product as a team. And defensively, they are still miles and miles away from where they need to be. So don't think I'm trying to tell you that Washington defensively has figured things out. I'm just pointing out that they're getting a little bit better, and that's why they're competing a little bit more in some of these games. And offensively, you knew there was going to be struggles for this team when CJ McCollum was traded away because he was taking up 27% of the possession. I think he was at a 25% usage rate. I'd have to double check cleaning the glass to double check that. But for a guy that was a heavy isolation player, he didn't really elevate or play make for other guys. So it's interesting to see how Washington offensively would navigate around that. Bub Carrington tonight was not great. Only finished with 2 assists compared to 5 turnovers, so that's abysmal, actually, to say the least. It was not a great Bub Carrington night, but he put together some decent performances, I'd say, overall in recent weeks playing at the pure point guard position. But I want to move on to Trey Johnson because he was the bulk of Washington's offense, especially in the third quarter of this game. He ended up finishing with 10 points in that third quarter. You just see it with the guy, how quickly he can get going. And that means a lot to me. That means a lot for where this team wants to go because if you have somebody that can spark the offense the way he did in that third quarter, it is excellent to see. The ability that he showed in the right corner over there where I'm pointing in this direction right now, there was one play where he received a pass. I think it was from Keyshawn George, and didn't really ever get in rhythm, kind of struggled with the catch a little bit because he had a defender draped all over him. He somehow gathered himself and got enough body control to set his feet and knock down the three-pointer. That is really impressive stuff that you do not see out of a rookie basketball player. Trey Johnson, I think, is far ahead of where I actually expected him to be at this point. I knew he was going to be good. He's as advertised shooting the basketball. There's a reason he's shooting 40% from 3 this year. But, man, he is a special, special talent. And it was unfortunate that he only got to take 3 shots in the fourth quarter of this game. I thought there would have been a real opportunity for him to kind of take over and see if he could go out there and win you this basketball game. That ultimately wasn't the case. I think one thing Washington's going to have to do better offensively going forward here, especially as you have this youth movement with the young players here, I think they're a little bit careless with the basketball at times in terms of the passes they're making across the court. And I know that's something when you're young, you're used to doing it at the level you're playing at. You say, okay, I'm going to drive the baseline here and I'm going to whip this thing across court. I'm going to make a skip pass to the other wing. You have to put a lot on that basketball because NBA defenders are much better than they were in college. And there were some careless passes today. And Will Riley had a couple of those today. But I do want to talk about him as well because I think he finally showed me something tonight from his recent performance. Not to say he didn't show me anything this year. He showed me a good amount. But January had been really tough for Will Riley. Getting these extended minutes since Corey Kispert was traded now 2 weeks ago, I guess. Riley had really been struggling. He was only shooting 18% from 3, which was bad. It was kind of indicative of how Washington shot the basketball tonight. But Riley ends up going 3 for 7 from behind the arc, 4 for 10 from the field. A couple of rebounds, no assists for Riley. I like to see him getting the extended run, the extending bird. I think that's important for his development because you have to let him go out there and make some mistakes. Every single night, that's going to be a thing. You're going to see guys that go out there and make mistakes that they're not going to make a couple of years from now. But that's just the state of where this Washington Wizards basketball team is right now. I do feel like they're getting better in a lot of different realms, but it's going to take some time before they get to being a complete product. And Michael Winger, president of Monumental Basketball, he addressed the media today. We're going to have a full breakdown of that tomorrow to fully address what was said, where the Washington Wizards are in this rebuild. Because I think he said some pretty interesting things, and that's going to be interesting to see. When we come back, Peyton Watson stole the show in this game. Could Washington be interested in him in free agency? Let's talk about that next. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work with you to get every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and then get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver, and it gives real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com to book an appointment today. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make, and that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with your customers. I love how simple Quo makes everything. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everybody sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight the next steps, so details never slip through the cracks. No surprise to me that Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free and get 6 months off when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. Welcome to be back here on the Locked On Wizards postgame show. Reminder, if you want to join the Everydayer Club, some of you legends definitely need to join that because we know that you watch the channel every single day. Be sure to go to lockedonwizards.supercast.com. You got ad-free content, Discord access to communicate with us. It's a blast. You got to get in on the action. You can check the link in the show notes in the description as well to get in on that. Man, Peyton Watson's a name that has just been thrown around like crazy, I feel like, in the Wizards Twitter social media realm as of recently. And tonight was a big reason why. My goodness, this dude looked insane. So, first 3 years of his career, from what I can remember, I can't, admittedly, I don't watch a lot of Denver Nuggets basketball outside of watching some of the big matchups, obviously the playoffs. He didn't do a ton for the first couple years of his career, but he has completely broken out. 40 minutes for him tonight, the 6'8" forward, 35 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks. He was 6 of 8 from downtown and 10 of 16 from the field. Now, the only reason I'm bringing up Peyton Watson, you probably ask, Ben, why are you even bringing up Peyton Watson? He's a restricted free agent this summer, and essentially that means teams can pursue him. Teams can make offers to go and get a guy like Peyton Watson. We know that Washington is going to have cap space that's available to go after somebody in free agency if they want to take that next step. And now Denver can match any of those offers because he is a restricted free agent and they drafted him to the organization. So that means they can match that qualifying offer and keep him. But there's a really large contract by Christian Braun, which I think might hinder what the Nuggets are able to do. So I think that's why a lot of people have actually brought the discourse up. I was so impressed with him tonight because he affected the game on both sides of the basketball. He's fearless. There was the one play where Sarr caught the ball at the foul line, tried to dribble in and throw it down on Watson's head, and Watson was not having it. He went up, he stuffed Sarr, and then George came down from the wing, tried to take it in on him, and then Watson turned him away as well. He's just one of those kind of gritty, do-it-all players that can really bring a different dynamic to your defense. And the fact that now you have to respect his jumper from the outside, that is really interesting to me. And I'd have to go double-check and look through all of his game logs to see if tonight was a fluke in terms of the way he was shooting the basketball. I don't think he is. Let me see if I can find that. I'll get back to you on that in a second. But it's just really interesting to me that he's had this emergence here for Denver. And I really think he could be an interesting candidate for Washington to go after. And one thing I want to bring up is that Michael Winger today, and I'm going to cover all of this tomorrow about Michael Winger's press conference, he goes, we're in the spot now in the next 6 to 18 months where we got to figure out who can really contribute to this team playing at a competitive level. So that means not everybody that's on this team now is going to be here in the future. And we knew that was the case. That's what this rebuild is all about. It's about finding out who's going to stick long term here in DC when you're trying to establish a young core of players. That's just how this thing is going to work, and sometimes your talent's going to come from elsewhere. Washington already went in the trade market to pick up Trae Young, and they think he's going to be a guy that can help be part of their developmental process. So in the last 10, Peyton Watson shooting 48.9% from three, and overall in the season he's shooting 40 points. Okay, so shows what I know. I clearly know nothing because this dude has been making everything from three this year, I guess. But he has looked like an unbelievable player. I'd be very interested to see if Washington could actually go after this guy in free agency. All right, well, we still got some time here in the Locked On Wizards post-game show. Let's give you your favorite post-game segment. It is time to let it all out. I'm going to get things going. Chuck Best, 3780, thank you for liking and subscribing to Locked On Wizards and commenting as always. My guy, I appreciate you a lot. NBA referees hate, and I mean absolutely hate, the Washington Wizards. Yeah, that call on Keyshawn George where Jamal Murray, I think very obviously tried to intentionally foul him, and they called George for a hook. That was a ridiculously bad call. Everybody was irate about it. I was like, are you serious right now? Like, I can see from where I'm sitting. I'm kind of like in a corner vantage point, so I don't always see everything on the floor with like a crystal clear view. I saw that one. That was an awesome, or why did I say awesome? Terrible. A terrible call, to say the least. Decent defense. Here's WizKid forever. Decent defense. The threes want to drop too many turnovers. Trey Johnson got hot and couldn't get the ball back. Yeah, I think I said the same exact thing. He had a really great third quarter, putting up 10 points, but ultimately didn't get to see him try to take over this game. I'm still waiting for the Trey Johnson takeover in a game. I feel like it's coming. I feel like we could see it really, really soon. That's 4 to 5 close games in a row now. Yeah. Exactly, and I see people that wears Bags and Vuk, so both of them were out with injury tonight. That's why you saw Anthony Gill get extended minutes for this team, and you know it's Anthony Gill. He gets a loud crowd pop when he scored, and he actually scored a bucket. Just a mentor, like that's what he is brought here to do, and it's pretty interesting. AB, Bruce Wayne, best Youngboy song, and Trey Johnson's a big Youngboy fan. They put that up on the scoreboard today, by the way. But AB Bub took 13 threes. My computer will put it up. There we go. Bub took 13 threes, while Trey took 7. Yeah, Bub was letting it fly tonight, and he was getting some of his looks to go down, like to his credit. Like he has been a good three-point shooter this season, but tonight was not one of those nights necessarily. He's 3 for 13 from behind the arc, so could have been a lot better offensively tonight. And the Bub, it just was not his night. He stacked together some pretty decent performances as of late. So, you know, it's going to be up and down for this guy that's 20 years old trying to play as the team's starting point guard right now. He's going to have those ups. He's going to have those downs. That is really interesting to see. All right, Uptown Dre, my guy. He said, I missed the game viewing the playback/highlights. Well, it was a tough game to watch, honestly, in the first half. And then it got kind of good in the second half, I'll say the least. Peyton Watson dominated, as I said. Washington was just overmatched physically in this game, and that is okay. So let me find another good comment to put up here. We get so many comments, and you guys are just the best that watch this channel every single day. Here's from Brando, an everyday listener. Will Riley is a piece. Once his shot starts to develop, he's a player, a very real player. Like I mentioned, Brando, he was 18% from three prior to this game in the month of January, and the shooting splits just hadn't been great for Riley overall. There's some more stats I could go through in his like advanced shooting splits that are just gross, to say the least, but I think that's okay. Like, he's got the length and everything you'll need to be a good NBA player. Like, he's got tough shot-making ability, which is very important in this league, but he's going to have to fill out his frame, and he's going to have to, you know, refine some of these mistakes he's making, like turning the basketball over. There's a couple instances where I just don't think he's processing the game fast enough yet. And I think it really takes time to process it as fast as you need to at this NBA level. So yeah, good comment, good observation there about Will Riley. All right, Mr. Bond V2, Bub jacking up threes, too many attempts with poor percentage. Yeah, tonight was not his night, but you got to give Bub some credit. He had been one of the better three-point shooters in the league, and he was leading this team in percentage entering the game. So we will see how he bounces back from that. Here's another one from Chuck that I like. Alex needs to get a little bit stronger, too. He's getting punked out of the lane by Bruce Brown. Diabolical. Yeah. Sar's going to figure that out to an extent. I don't know if he's ever going to be super physically dominant. Like, if he puts on 30 pounds, I don't know if that's something that Sar's going to do, because then, like, how much would he lose of his speed and athleticism and things that make him talented offensively? I think you just need to put another big alongside Sar. I think that would really benefit him offensively. I think it would benefit him defensively. And maybe it would help their spacing. You think of this long mid, they're not trying to win games right now, and that's why you don't see them running a double big lineup. I think the double big lineup, well, they don't really necessarily have great personnel for it. Sar and Bagley could play out there. That'd be interesting. I don't know if it would be excellent by any means. I think it would make them better. The two biggest holes on this team were having an extra big out there and a point guard, and that's why the record is 10-33 right now. That's why it's a bad basketball team, but that is completely by design, as everybody knows. Let's find another comment. Locked on Law, guy, always watching the channel. Appreciate you, Law. We had Gil playing center. We know what we need. Yeah, we need another big on this team. That is for certain, and I'm really hoping that you get one in this draft. And it's going to depend on where you stack up in this draft. Where does the luck fall in the lottery for DC? Do they get lucky enough to be 1 through 4? I think if you end up in the top 4, you're going to have a choice at a good big. Because I don't know, the way it looks right now, I feel like DeBansta is probably 1 on most people's board, Peterson 2, and then Boozer and Caleb Wilson is going to be interesting. I think that could actually come down to March Madness to see where people think those guys could stack up, because a lot of people are super high on Caleb Wilson because that dude dunks everything. Him and Sar on the floor together, I think, would be really, really interesting. So that's going to be fun to look at as well. Let's see. DC Destiny 89. Very proud of Trey and how he bounced back. That's say he needs to drive the lane, get contact, get to the free throw line. That's his next step. Yeah, good observation, actually. I forgot to point that out, that he had a really tough start to this game. I think he missed his first 5 shot attempts, and a lot of those were in and out. And I was like, all right, Trey, like, you got to keep shooting the basketball here, because you've missed a couple, but that's all right. Like, keep on shooting the basketball. That is what you're going to do best here. And that's, admirable from him to stick with it in this game. He has the mentality to be a really good basketball player in this league. And tonight was a night like that where you see him bounce back after a struggle. And to your point about him driving the lane and drawing contact, yeah, that's definitely something that he needs to do better at some point. But that's more of a work in progress with him. I like the way he's playing on basketball right now. I feel like he's actually improved at his ability to get to multiple levels and try and get in the lane and score. I think his first bucket he had in the second half, he actually drove the baseline, had a nice reverse layup with a couple different nuggets around him. So that was great to see. Let me see. Ben, have the Wizards bless you with tickets to give away? No, unfortunately, Chuck. That's it's not something we get here. I promise the pod goes up. I mean, the pod will go up if we continue to put out good content. That's all I can say right now. So I'm just doing my best to make this show entertaining and informative for all of you guys, but it's only possible because you guys watch this channel every single day. And that's why you need to join the Everydayer Club. Be sure to check out the link in the show notes for information and access to that, or go to lockedonwizards.supercast.com if you want to get involved with that. This was bonus content, so that's going to do it today for the Locked On Wizards post-game show. Washington competes, but falls in this one 107-97 to the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets get their lick back. We swept them last year. They sweep us this year. We'll be back tomorrow, though. Michael Winger, his press conference, we'll have thoughts on that. Be sure to stick around for Ben Strober.